Now, Shannon, I know you've just come out of a private WEF session here at Davos. As much as you can you tell us who was there, what you talked about, and what your conclusions were?
Sure, yeah, so I kind of jumped in actually on behalf of our execs. I think that this session, which was banking on sustainability, so it's the financial services industry, banks, there were CEOs of some pretty important banks in the room.
Can you tell us who?
No, I cannot.
Okay, all right.
But we're all passionate about the subject of obviously the topic, which is the climate crisis and the financial services role in the climate crisis. So I jumped in, our execs had a really busy schedule, and it was fascinating because I think that there were two really key threads or themes of this, which was to differentiate between climate risk and climate transition. And there were some opinions on climate risk, which I found quite interesting. It's correlated with the carbon correction that David Craig has been talking about. And that is that climate risk is evaluating how much risk you are exposed to with the carbon that you have in your portfolios. And are you financing the climate risk? And what was interesting is the voices around this forum, there was about 15 people in the room, so very closed door, were all in favor of a carbon tax, and really, to the point of we're ready for it and we would like this tax to be proportional to the damage it's doing to the climate.
So are the CEOs expecting this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they're kind of willing and ready for it to happen. And what was interesting as well is not at the level of the value of carbon as it's priced, $28, for example, but really proportional to the damage that it's doing on our environment.
Now, what about those companies that are using carbon now? I mean, they can't just switch overnight. There's got to be some sort of transition phase. Did they talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the second part of the topic, which was the climate transition. And there was this notion of it's not a binary thing between what they started calling green assets and brown assets, right? So green obviously being carbon, limited or neutral, and brown assets being those dirty ones that are quite carbon heavy. So we can't just divest from the brown ones is the notion, but that the financial services industry and banks in general really need to invest and finance the transition. So keep investing in, let's call the brown assets, but do so with conditions in place that makes it apparent that the funding is going towards the transition to renewable energy sources. So I found that really interesting.
Now, one of the things I'm trying to get to the bottom of is that a lot of times there's a lot of talk that this will happen. Was there anything concrete we can hang our hats on that this is going to, be moved into action?
Well, I think what's difficult, and everybody really felt it in the room over an hour of debate, is that it's a very complex problem, right? And there is really no one simple, clear solution. There's nobody that's going to give it to them. I think a lot of people were looking to regulators or to standard setters to be able to give them some sort of framework within they could work. However, they were all in agreement that we really did need to move forward quite quickly because the time that we do have left is minimal. So the urgency was there, and I think one of the main takeaways was maybe they looked towards data providers like Refinitiv to kind of step in and provide the transparency that's needed. But of course, this would be data providers collectively. There's several of them.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much. You've literally given us insight into what's going on behind closed doors. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely, no problem.